Excuse me. Yeah. Hold on to your tinfoil hats for this one because we're gonna talk about Joe Rogan, and his latest episode with two UFO conspiracy rants, conspiracy theories. Well, Rogan's kind of the main conspiracy theorist at this point. I think what he's been doing is pretty harmful. The dude used to be like my hero. You know what I'm saying? Like he he was the most innovative podcaster and commentator, essentially in the world. I don't think there's any other like way to describe Rogan in the eyes of somebody who likes uh innovative content and interesting people. But you know what's gone on with Rogan is pretty sad. Like you've seen him go from basically like this bold uh host who got these really daring guests. Like when he had Lance Armstrong on, that was so awesome, and I was there for every second of it. And he's had some incredible guests. That's just the tip of the iceberg. But lately, Senor Rogan has really taken a turn into what I would call being red pilled. Um, so yeah, so this is the latest episode of Rogan, though we're gonna watch it and talk about it. So let's go in. But yeah, he's everybody's talking about this. There was a hearing apparently and some information. He constantly brings it up. Anyways, let's just watch it. We'll get into it.
An experience.
It's the first time in history that you have Commander David Fravor, Lieutenant Ryan Graves, and then one whistleblower, a guy named David Grush, who we can't validate what he said because it's all classified information. But Commander Fravor, friends of ours, Commander Fravor, he like just told what happened to him. He chased a UFO. Then you've got Ryan Graves, who his whole squadron has been seeing these things. You've had both on your podcast. But Grush stood up there and he was very careful with his words, and I want people to know why. If you look at that setting, you're going to see right behind him was a guy named Chuck McCullough. Chuck McCullough is the former intelligence community inspector general. So, like the cops of the intelligence community. And he was right behind David Grush, who is his client. So, he's representing David Grush because David Grush put a whistleblower complaint. Yeah, and look at those two handsome guys right there. So there's yeah, this is the biggest conspiracy photo of all time. Can you imagine people seeing this and being like, "What are those idiots doing up there with him?" But so behind
Look at that
David,
dude with the beard and the glasses in the back. He looks so happy.
yeah, dude, he's so.
UFOs.
People think that guy with the bald head is.
Yeah, so let's talk about David Grush. So sorry, they have a photo of him up on the screen. See if there's a better place to pause at. But yeah, so okay. So David Grush claimed that he conducted an investigation with special access programs related to UFOs. He's a former intelligence officer with experience in the field, and it gets interesting because, well, you have to take everything he says with a grain of salt. His claims are classified, and nobody can validate them. But he gave some testimony during a congressional hearing that raised some eyebrows. He stated under oath that he found evidence supporting the existence of special access programs related to UFOs, and he mentioned interviewing witnesses who claimed firsthand knowledge of working on alien craft. So if that's all true, the stuff in the video is then basically going 10 steps of logic past that, which is basically like, it was probably, I'm sure the government has a UFO investigation program. I'm sure, because there's unidentified flying objects that we pick up all the time. Think of the Chinese spy balloon. But if you go into the mushroom world of Joe Rogan and these two fucking idiots, you're talking about crash retrievals, reverse engineering, alien technology, coming up with, you know, I've heard Rogan say like quantum energy. Who fucking cares? But remember, this is all something straight out of the 1990s and 80s myth, Bob Lazar myth of Area 51, which in my opinion is sort of like the 9/11 Zapruder film at this point. It's not cool anymore. And then even before that, you have the people who are, you know, wearing tinfoil hats, which is literally was a thing, and then booking flights to Roswell. Anyways, let's keep going.
Is the former
Comments that Clapper was looking up my notes during that.
So I
Who
got
is that guy?
I don't know.
He's just part of Ryan's organization as a. But you know, here's the deal, man. This photo is kind of hilarious because George had ontological shock when we were in that room. It's like he's sitting there. I mean, he's sitting there seeing after all this time, this shit's being said out loud. So what happened was the seats were kind of like designated for us because George and I were supposed to testify, by the way. But then common wisdom says, why have these journalist guys when you can hear directly from the first-hand people? And
Right.
when we agreed.
Yeah.
But
No, dude, they didn't let you fucking testify because you're not credible and you're just like a fucking yes. I mean, cool. They gave the schizophrenics a field day, you know, a field trip to Congress. Like, so I think honestly the government just did it because they were like, let's be sympathetic to these mentally ill people and let them feel heard.
But what we did was we put on congressional record statements, and people should read them if they haven't. They're on congressional record. I did an assessment of kind of the estimate of the situation on UFOs, but he named names.
Sometimes I wonder if these guys are just like are grifters themselves, like they know that it's bullshit.
And programs. But what you're seeing there is, and I kind of had to fight for this, you know, is getting his lawyer behind him should be like an obvious fucking thing when a guy's going up to testify under oath in front of Congress. If you believe him, he's speaking under whistleblower protection. Dude, it was hard to get his lawyer behind him. I had literally had to put the lawyer behind him. So we got the lawyer behind him so he could lean.
Yeah, the lawyer didn't want to be on camera. The lawyer was like, yo, this is career suicide.
in and be like, careful, Dave, careful, which he did like a bunch of times.
Mhm.
And then there's George looking all scrunched, and everybody's like, why Jeremy over there with no one next to him? I think people are a little afraid of me because, you know, a little bit of a maniac sometimes. Whatever. We're there. Dave starts talking. They ask him questions. These weren't pre-scripted or anything. You know, we're talking about what could be asked for sure, but they weren't pre-scripted. What Dave Grush said, and correct me or add to if I get this wrong, Dave Grush said, I did an investigation. It was my job. I was hired by, and this is a guy from the National Reconnaissance Office, the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. Like this guy is he's been in the intelligence community a long time. And he sits there under oath and he says, I did an investigation. I interviewed, it was my job to look at over 2,000 special access programs, like black programs. And it was my job to find out if any of them had.
Oh, they were black programs, homie? That's fucked up, dog. Tell me more about these black programs, dog, and how scary they were.
To do with UAP, and if there's any money being hidden, like misappropriated, theft. And he's like, after interviewing 40 witnesses, I found a ton of shit that supports this. And in fact, he said, I found people who worked on the craft firsthand. And they had to come in, or they willingly came in. He called them hostile and non-hostile witnesses. And he's like, so I did that whole thing. The second I did that, which was my job, I was given the job, reprisals started happening to me. So he smartly did a whistleblower complaint through the Presidential Protection Act 19 or something. He got the head of the ICIG, the former head of the ICIG, who's a lawyer, and he says, fuck, dude.
Wow, dude, he got the ICIG, dog. He got the fucking ICIG, and he used the Presidential Protection Act. I mean, he is legally the president, so that makes sense.
Dude, here's what I know. Here's what people don't know. is the ICIG,
What don't we fucking know?
so the intelligence community did their own investigation into David Grush's witnesses and what he found. They interviewed like 40 plus under oath and immediately said David Grush's claim is both credible and urgent. So it's not like just one guy telling you.
And a mental health crisis.
Our intelligence community did a deep dive investigation into what David Grush told them under oath in the right secure settings, and they're like credible, urgent. So David Grush can tell you the basic things that happened, but you know how he kept saying in the appropriate environment, if you've got clearance, we can do that. I'm willing to give you a list of hostile and non.
This is a UFO journalist, just FYI. Like, he don't like
hostile people that worked on the craft. You know, biologicals, he even said. He's like, I'll give that to you today. We just got to get a skiff, and we got to make sure that you have access, you have clearance. And he was denied a skiff that day.
He's a credible guy. He's the real deal. I mean, he had a career in the Air Force, served in Afghanistan, a distinguished career. Then he goes into the intelligence community, working for the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. He was assigned by his boss to be the liaison to the UAP task force. That's what Congress had set it up to investigate the whole UFO matter before the current program existed. And the guy who was in charge of the task force, Jay Stratton, gave him a job. Go find the special access programs that are hiding UFO stuff. Either.
Dude, I thought it was hilarious how he like looks at Rogan here. He's like, was that cool? Was that tight? Like,
he's like, I'll give that to you today. We just got to get a skiff, and we got to make sure that you have access, you have clearance. And he was denied a skiff that day.
did I get it, Joe?
He's
He makes deep romantic eye contact with him.
You have clearance. And he was denied a skiff that day.
he's
Was I going crazy? Or did you not listen? Did you listen to my thing about scary things? I was peddling shit for you, Joe Rogan.
If, and we got to make sure that you have access, you have clearance. And he was denied a skiff that day.
he's
Oh, it's so sad.
He's a credible guy. He's the real deal. I mean, he had a career in the Air Force, served in Afghanistan, a distinguished career. Then he goes into the intelligence community, working for the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. He was assigned by his boss.
This guy has seen some shit for sure, dude. This guy has seen some gnarly shit. I'm not talking about UFOs.
To be the liaison to the UAP task force. That's what Congress had set it up to investigate the whole UFO matter before the current program existed. And the guy who was in charge of the task force, Jay Stratton, gave him a job. Go find the special access programs that are hiding UFO stuff, either siphoning millions of dollars, or they've got technology, crash retrievals, reverse engineering, all the stuff that we've always heard rumored, and he did. He found it. Most of the juiciest stuff that he found, he can't say in an unclassified setting. It has to be.
The juicy stuff we can't talk about because it's too fucking real, dog. It's too fucking legit, dog. We can't talk about this shit, homie. That's why you can't hear about
Crash retrievals, reverse engineering, all the stuff that we've always heard rumored, and he did. He found it. Most of the juiciest stuff that he found, he can't say in an unclassified setting. It has to be because they will get him. They will bust his ass if they can. They've already tried.
Like 4 times, and that's something offline we'll talk about. There have been attempts to get him silenced.
Oh no.
Unmuzzled, by the way, to not do podcasts or shows and stuff, right? To get him muzzled by people that are trying to say he's talking outside of his Dopser, which is like what he's allowed to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
So they're looking for one word that he says that's outside of that. Like I get asked by by people in the government. Has he ever told you the number of crashes? Has he ever told you locations? Like, I'm going to fucking answer you, first of all. Second of all, no, he hasn't. Because that would be illegal if it were to be true.
So
But
he
is it technically all of the inferences that they're making then somewhat illegal because they're claiming that they, oh my god, this fucking hurts my head. But isn't the fact that he's saying, oh, this guy, if he told me anything, I couldn't talk about it, and then therefore it would be illegal if I knew it, but then I'm also claiming at the same time all of the things about UFOs that have not been substantiated, which I'm saying are substantiated. Shut the fuck.
is authorized to talk about a very limited number of things. Is
Right.
that correct?
Oh, it's the first time we saw Joe. Wow, I like his shirt. Hey, Joe. Nice shirt, dude. Yo, that is some dude. What's the fucking from I think you should leave Dan Flash's shit, dude. We're rocking it today, dog. Me and you, homie.
And they're not vouching for their authenticity. Doppser process, which is, I don't know what it stands for, but it's like a pre-pub process. He very smartly, because his lawyer is really smart, former ICIG, he's like, write it in what you want to talk about and see what they come back about what you can't talk about. So they're not saying what he's saying is true. They're just saying you can talk within these parameters. I would like to see if what he's saying is true. So we just need that option.
So who gives him the authority to talk about these things?
No one gives him the
Dude, can't get over his shirt. He's like, yo, I'm gonna fucking flamingo my ass today for the UFO dudes. Bro Jogan.
These things.
no one gives him the authority. He's taking that all on himself. He's a true
Dude, this is so fun. This is so fun. Like, just watching Joe Rogan. I fucking love Rogan.
whistleblower.
This is why, dude. This is why I'm a sucker. This is why people watch it. They're hate watching it. He knows that. He knows that.
Whether you believe his claims or not, what he's doing is legal, but it is, I mean, it's a career killer, right? Doppser says they go through it and they make sure that things that are like highly sensitive are classified, right? Like you can't say this word or this program or this name. So they kind of do it as a pre-publication thing. That's the process.
I have lost so many brain cells. Oh my god, it hurts.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I wrote a book with Colin Kelleher and Jim Katsky about the DIA's UFO program. It took Doppser 14 months to approve our manuscript. So they take their time.
They
go
take
through
their
every
time.
line.
But also when you get pushback
They do take their fucking time.
where people are trying to entrap him or get people to say that he said something out of school, the Doppser people are like, no, he's fine. Like he's talked within those parameters. He just has to be careful to not accidentally say something that is outside of those parameters. And right now is a very sensitive time for that, you know, immediately.
It's interesting. We
No
met
way.
him in Huntsville, Alabama, at a conference, the SCU conference. It's a UFO event. We went down there to interview somebody else and to get him on camera. And we had been told there's a guy might introduce himself. And Jeremy was shooting video of me sitting at a bar at the moment that this guy walked up and introduced himself. So he had that moment on camera. And then we got to know him a little bit. A couple months later, he comes out to Las Vegas. There was a Star Trek convention. We were going to speak at it. And he comes out because he
Yo! Of course these guys speak at fucking Star Trek conventions. That's their fucking Comic-Con, dude. Holy shit. Then the UFO cons. Yo, these guys probably pulling the big old daddy bucks.
He likes Star Trek, like everybody likes Star Trek, comes out and spends 2 days with us. The next day, he flies back Sunday night. Monday morning, he reports to work. Armed security guards escort him out. He was suspended. His clearance was suspended. We were worried, oh, Christ, was he seen in our company and that's what happened? But that
No, it's probably because he went to a fucking Star Trek fucking convention, you fucking Dumbass.
was the beginning of his.
What would these guys be doing if they didn't get on Joe Rogan? Like, what is their, like, this is like 19, these guys are like 1990s like conspiracy theorists. Like, I doubt they have much social media. Well, maybe they do. I would shut the fuck up.
First real big trial by fire. They accused him of a bunch of stuff.
And subscribe to my Patreon for more.
And said that they were going to fire him and permanently suspend his clearance.
And was he already discussing UFOs at that time?
Not with us.
Whenever Rogan comes on screen, I need to fucking pop my collar.
Already discussing UFOs at that time?
Not with us. But
Well,
he had already been investigating it on behalf of the UAP task force, and he had shared information through the whistleblower process with the inspector general.
Yeah, let me just break it down real simple. So here he is. He gets this job. He's looking at all these special access programs. He's a fucking brilliant guy. He's a physicist, by the way. You know, like he's a brilliant guy in general. So he discovers all.
Dude, physicists can lose their mind too. Just FYI, if you've seen Oppenheimer, even the most brilliant ones can lose their mind. And in fact, maybe they do more than the average person.
This shit. He starts getting reprisals, and then the moment George is talking about, I kind of had heard about him. All of a sudden, he comes up to him at this bar where we were at. That's the first time that he talked to anybody outside of government. Now, he didn't share anything he shouldn't, but
Outside of his man cave.
he's kind of coming to George and then to me to say, I'm doing this whistleblower thing. I am concerned for my safety and just in general for my career. He wanted a journalist or journalists to know, not to report on it. So imagine that. We don't even break the story that we had before anybody, right? So what I did, because I'm his harpoon, I did a deep dive into this guy for months and months and months. He actually came to my home, you know, met my family, and I got to know him. And we vetted and vetted. Okay, this guy is who he says he is. He's 100% who he says he is. So we kind of got that layer of trust. This is not some sham or something like that. But then what happens is what George was talking about, the second trip. So I'm already talking at this Star Trek thing because my friend growing up from my jiu-jitsu class was Rod Roddenberry. So he's like the son of Gene Roddenberry. So he's just like, dude, Jeremy, come talk to a bunch of Trekkies about real UFOs. And I'm like, cool, I'll do it. It's in George's hometown. So that was a great opportunity for Dave to come and meet with us again and just talk to us, right?
So you had a Z-list celebrity type.
Yeah, and then that Monday when he gets back, he's walked out of the Geospatial Intelligence Agency or NRO, depending on which one you want to identify him with. He's out, man, and they did some bullshit on him, like time card, like out of 12,000 billable hours, maybe there's like 30 hours somewhere.
And by the way, Twitter loves this. Just to show you, like, the episode was posted 5 minutes ago, but like, it is mind-boggling. Just the breaking interview talks with David Grush. We got to get him on here. The latest. Anyways, what the fuck? Dude. Amazing.
Where you didn't do it right. They were doing anything they could to fuck with this guy. So that was our first like heads up. Oh, dude, how this guy gets treated is going to dictate everybody else that has come to us in private saying, I think this is illegal, what I'm doing.
Right.
Among the complaints they issued to try to take away his security clearance was that he had mental health issues.
Yeah.
No way. He had mental health issues? They said that to take away his security clearance? No. That's illegal. That's assassination of character. You can't do that. What the fuck? He's an honest guy trying to save the world.
So he was suspended for a couple of months. They did a background investigation of his allegations, the allegations that had been made against him, and they cleared him, reinstated his security clearance. He stayed on the job for a couple more months and then retired because he
I love my broken green screen.
And he left. And that's when he started
so much
plotting
funnier
the
than a
next
better green
chapter.
screen.
And now we're seeing the backlash process firing up once again. After he testifies in front of Congress in that hearing and offers to tell them more in a classified setting and spill all the beans, uh, they got to find a media guy to go after him. This article in The Intercept.
The Intercept did a smash piece. By the way, we already knew all about Dave Gresh's PTSD, and at the time, his best friend, one of his dear friends, just got off the phone with him, blew his own brains out, right? So he was like drinking, he was in a bad place. The first day one, I talked to him. I said, "What dirt are they going to pull up on you? If what you're telling me is true, they're going to get some dirt." And he goes, "Look, man, I had PTSD. I dealt with it. I survived it. Nothing horrible happened." But he told us day one, man, that Intercept thing was some bullshit. They come in and they try to discredit what he said because of his PTSD shit. And the thing is, that happened to Lazar. Like, if you believe or don't believe, don't care. That did happen to Lazar too, where people try to discredit his character to try to minimize what he's telling you. So we saw that with Dave, and that was only the visible stuff. I'm telling you, things behind the scenes that have been done to Dave and his family, it's disgusting. Like, not even just
They
like pull your
waterboarded
clearance
him.
kind of shit. Like, there are people that don't want him.
They made him get naked and fucking bark like a fucking little dog. They put him in shackles and they twisted his nipples.
Embarrassment, to the Department of Defense. If what he's saying, he's coming out of school and he's saying, I saw some BS. Like, they don't want that.
So we are in a pushback phase. They not only
No shit, you're in a pushback phase. This whole fucking thing is a pushback phase. You're the pushback. You're the fucking pushing the shit back. Ah. Don't you think if the government had UFOs, they'd want to tell us? Don't you think that? Don't you think that for a fucking second that they'd want to tell us about the fucking UFOs if they had the UFOs? Don't you think that? Don't you think that the UFOs would be like the biggest issue for them to want to talk about? Don't you think that the government, because think about fucking COVID. Don't you think that when we fucking got COVID and nobody knew what the fuck to do, don't you think that they do the same exact fucking shit again, where they'd freak out and not know what to do? You morons, don't you think they'd make us all wear fucking the face mask shit again? Don't you think that they'd put us all in fucking lockdown because they don't know what shit that it could be contaminating on the world? The world? It's the cognitive dissonance when people talk about UFOs is so mind-boggling. The lack and the leaps of logic, the fucking morons. They are, though. I mean, come on. They're fucking idiots, dude. And Rogan loves it because he knows this is clickbait, and I'm the bait.
into UAP matters,
I am.
was a subcommittee on national security of the Oversight Committee, the larger committee. Since that hearing happened, the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee got together with the chairman of the Oversight Committee and decided no more UFO hearings in the House. Enough of that bullshit. We're not doing that anymore because, in their words, it could be an embarrassment to the Department of Defense. You're damn right,
an
it would be an
embarrassment.
embarrassment.
Yeah, it
for
would
what's
be.
going to come out.
I mean, it was a big
It would
success.
be embarrassing to talk
have
about this right now.
Publicly done. It's the first time in history that we have direct witnesses, like 2 pilots and then a whistleblower. It was the first time in history. We fought for every millimeter of that territory.
All right, I'm done with you guys. You guys fucking... I love you, Joe Rogan. This is why I watch. But I could not stomach 3 hours of this bullshit. Thank you for just posting a 15-minute clip and saving us. It really is insane, though. Like, this whole people believe in UFOs, but it's not just the UFOs, guys. It's the QAnon. It's the red pilling. It's the critical race theory. It's the my child needs a litter box conspiracy theory pushing. That this is all a gateway into that shit. So you better fucking remember that this is not just your harmless everyday discussion. Rogan is a peddler of disinformation, and he opens the gateway to that through misinformation, but starting with the mind tendies of UFOs, of of bringing on these guys who claim to have secret knowledge, and UFOs are harmless. Like spend all your day fantasizing about UFOs, but when Rogan has on a guy like this to do this, and it's just 2 hours of him obfuscating the point, and there is no point. They don't talk about anything to do with like baseline logic of like, oh well, yeah, don't you think the government would be just as freaked out as humans if they knew about aliens and like what diseases they could spread? But then it's just it becomes voter fraud. It becomes voter fraud. It becomes COVID was a hoax. It becomes the Jews are immune to COVID, and the Chinese. It becomes Robert Kennedy should be president. It becomes the Democrats have pedophiles. It becomes Joe Rogan invading your brain. And so remember that. Stay safe, stay guarded, stay healthy, wear your tinfoil hat, but wear the healthy tinfoil hat that protects you from this kind of bullshit, because that's the better tinfoil hat. The better tinfoil hat to wear is not the UFO believer. The better tinfoil hat to wear is to guard your brain from this kind of bullshit. The better tinfoil hat in society is to guard yourself from misinformation. The best tinfoil hat one can wear is to protect themselves from being brain rotten and red pilled, and to forget facts and logic. The best tinfoil hat is a it's just the best tinfoil hat. It's just a fucking hat, folks. All right, thank you, and subscribe for more.